Hello, everyone. This is David, and continuing with our current week of Animals Attack, tonight's movie is Jaws 2. Now, you might question why go to Jaws 2 and not Jaws 1. Well, if you remember in the intro, I was going to do these more or less, try to get one for every year. Didn't work out exactly that well. There's some other movies that came out around the time Jaws came out that were better. Now, don't get me wrong. Jaws is an amazing movie, and again, if you haven't seen it, stop what you're doing right now and go see it, because you're missing out on something. That movie is a classic, and unless you really don't like the ocean or sharks, which I don't see any reason why you wouldn't like them, go see it. Just stop what you're doing now. Go check it out. You're missing out on something. For those of you who have seen Jaws, you've probably seen the sequels, and you'll know the first thing most people say is the shark looks fake. Well, that's not untrue. The shark does look fake. It looked best in the first movie, but the special effects in this one are what I consider passable. Later on, it gets far worse. Jaws 3 and 4 are not nearly as good, but we're talking about Jaws 2. So, this is an interesting one. So, the enemy, or the monster in this one, is a great white shark. Everyone knows that. But what you might not know is he's of the same family as the other shark, or at least it is presumed as such, as he's coming in taking some sort of vengeance. And it's kind of strange to think of it like this, like these sharks are coming in to get people. And what I thought was an interesting thing nowadays is, being a New Englander myself, great whites have been coming to the Cape, where was Jaws filmed, on Nantucket, and a few other places too, but I believe it was mostly used on Nantucket. And great whites are coming around there now, and I think that's interesting. But I'm sad too, because these movies did a lot against sharks. As much as I enjoyed all of the Jaws movies at different stages of my life, I've loved all of them for different reasons, except for Jaws 4. I never really cared for that one. Like, I remember seeing that, like, I saw Jaws, and then I saw Jaws 4. I thought it was cool when I saw it, but I was like 8 at the time, and I didn't understand how good or bad things were. But, so, the problem with these movies isn't that they're bad movies per se, it's the reaction the original mostly caused to people, and everyone freaked out. Now, nowadays, it doesn't seem like much. Sharks are much better understood, and people know, for the most part, they're not really, well, they are dangerous, but they're not dangerous in the way people think of them. They're not going to attack you. If they do, it's because they made a mistake, and they mistook you for whatever they would normally eat. Sharks don't really care for people. So these movies kind of turned everyone's opinion and made them go crazy for a good long while. And there was crusades against sharks for many years, and I believe Peter Benchley himself regretted ever writing Jaws because of that, because really these animals are paragons at what they do. They are eating machines, and it's just a sad day to see them slaughtered for little more than fear. It's a sad day. It's the same thing with, like, terrestrial animals too. Wolves were slaughtered almost to the man, as it were. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Back to Jaws 2. So, y'all know the monster. It's a shark. It's got shark-related abilities. Although this one's more like a Jason Voorhees kind of shark. So, although it might be before Friday the 13th came out, or certainly before Jason was an unkillable zombie. So the shark in this one, as opposed to the first one, gets all messed up. He gets his face burned off. He just gets beaten to hell, and he looks ugly. He's like the Freddy Krueger of sharks. He's just all messed up and coming for you. So that's kind of interesting. They give him a little bit more character in that regard. He's kind of more like a slasher victim. Just he lives in the water, or a slasher killer. He lives in the water. So Paul Jaws 2 is pretty basic. So I didn't notice this till this most recent watching of it. But the opening is these two guys scuba diving, and the shark attacks them and kills them, but the camera that the guy had takes some pictures of the shark, granted at super up close range where it's kind of indistinguishable, but What I didn't realize is they were scuba diving at the wreck of the Orca, where the previous shark had been killed, which I thought was interesting. I never knew that before. So that's something new I learned. Suffice to say, Brody gets called in, they find this ship just kind of abandoned in the anchored down right over the wreck of the Orca. They trawl the area, they find this camera, they find some stuff. They're like, no one's around. It's really suspicious. It's like, we don't know what happened. Some people abandoned this boat. Got to bring it in. It was over the wreck of the Orca. Kind of weird. People are scuba diving according to the flags that the ship had up. So, raises some alarms. Brody's like, let's get this film developed. And whatnot. So he's going around. He's doing stuff. And the shark's making good on attacking things. They find his kids. One of his kids is now like a teenager. I want to say he's like 17 or 18. He was 17. They mentioned he was 17. But his other kid is still quite young. And here's the thing, right? In the first movie, I thought the differences in age were closer. Like, one was like 8 and one was like 6. Or maybe one was like 10 and one was like, 6, where the difference wasn't huge. But in this one, it seems like the difference is much more. Like, the older son is like 17, he's like a teenager, but the younger son is like, he looks like he's 10. So, I mean, I guess that could be a difference. Like, if the older son was like 12 or 13 in that movie, which I guess he could have been, and the younger son was like 5 or 6, but I don't know. I don't think they ever give ages in the first one, so I'm not going to really make comparisons. But suffice to say, the older Brody kid is a young adult now. He's a teenager. And he's got teenage friends. And this movie focuses a lot more on the younger Brody and his teenage friends and them goofing off and having good times. And pretty much all there is to do on Amity is sail. So they're sailing around all the time. They sail out to islands, sandbars. They just hang out there, and they find this killer whale that's been beached with these strange bite marks. And Brody comes in, they examine it. Brody's talking with this woman who we've never met before. It's not Hooper from the first film. He didn't come back for this, unfortunately. We got Roy Scheider at least, but man, it would have been great if we could have gotten Hooper back. But if we got Hooper, I think more credit would have been given to Brody on this film. So she's looking at it, and he's like, so what's the bite radius on this thing? And she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, the bites, those look like pretty big bites. This thing's all torn up. What did this? And he's like, the person's like, well, either it was a shark or it was another killer whale, but we don't know where. And she's like, it could have been killed up to 10 miles out to sea. It could have drifted another like 10, 15 miles. And I'm like, that seems like a far distance, but not really when it talk about like how far out some fishing boats go to fish and come back every day. So like, it's completely feasible that even if it did get killed far out to sea and came in, that the shark could still be in the area. And it's not disproving that it's not. I mean, I guess maybe what she's saying is it's not likely that the attack happened right offshore where most people hang out. I guess that's what she's going for. But so Brody's getting more and more convinced. There's a shark. There's a shark. There's a shark. And I'm trying to remember the first attack that happens, and it's not coming to me. But first he's getting all paranoid, and he's thinking there's definitely a shark. So he makes these special bullets. He gets hollow points, and he fills them with poison. So he shoots it, and it'll poison it. And he's up in his shark watchtower at the beach, and the mayor's flipping out at him because the mayor doesn't want to believe any of this bull honky. He's like, there's no shark. Kind of like there was never any shark. It wasn't attacking the town, It's kind of like plausible deniability. This guy's just trying to think for the best of the town, but he really does come off as kind of a sleazeball. When you think about it in perspective, though, we all know there's a shark in the water, but not everyone is so convinced. And at that time, great whites were considered pretty rare, and for the most part, unless they have the serial killer gene, they don't attack people. So he's like, look, there's no shark. Don't worry, people. We're trying to make summer money again. And Brody's like, look, I'm just trying to keep people safe. And so what ends up happening is up in the shark tower, and he sees something in a shadow in the water, and he's like, "Oh shit, that's the fucking thing." So he's ringing his bell, comes running down to his gun and with his pistol, and he starts shooting at the thing, yelling "shark." And it turns out it is not a shark. It is in fact a run of bluefish, and everyone makes fun of him because they're like, "Oh, it was just bluefish, not a big deal." And I'm thinking to myself, from a young age, I was taught that bluefish can be very dangerous. Like, if a swarm of bluefish or a school of bluefish comes in on swimmers, they'll just tear them up. They'll like bite hands, they'll bite feet, they'll bite off fingers. They'll take you out. They're pretty, I don't want to say ferocious, but if you get caught in the middle of a school of bluefish, they aren't messing around. They aren't picky about what they eat, from what I understand. That might be more of a superstition than like an actual fact. I've never heard of anyone getting hit by bluefish, but growing up I was told about that all the time. I'm sure you guys can figure it out for yourself. But what I'm saying is, like, just because it's not a shark doesn't mean it's not potentially dangerous. In fact, the opposite is usually quite true. Things that aren't sharks tend to be more dangerous for an assorted number of reasons than sharks actually are. And you can make of that what you will. Granted, yeah, he probably shouldn't be firing off his pistol at bluefish, but, I don't think he was totally out of line. So, he gets this film developed, and he sees this thing that's a shark, and he takes it to the mayor. And the mayor's, like, having this chat with, like, the rest of, like, the town council, I'm guessing. And the mayor's not having any of this. He's like, "Look, Brody, if you're going to be like this, we can't have you as sheriff. You're just going nuts. You can't have our sheriff just going nuts. So you're fired." And so Brody goes and does the best thing he can, and that's goes and gets drunk. Meanwhile, oh, sorry, I forgot about the first shark attack. So there's a water skier this is a boat with a water skier, and it gets attacked by the shark. And this is where the shark gets his horrific burns. So what happens is, the water skier falls, the shark gets her, the person that was driving the boat goes back, looks for her, doesn't see her. Shark jumps up on the boat, kind of on the side. She like throws gasoline on it and lights it up with a flare, and then the whole boat explodes. So it's all burned on the side of its face. It's all messed up. And Brody actually finds one of the bodies because the people saw the explosion. They just didn't see the giant 30-foot shark jumping on the boat for some reason. I don't know how you could not notice that, but okay, fair enough. You didn't see the shark. And he pulls his dead body out, and they go and examine it, try to figure out. And she was burned to death because the shark didn't kill her. So that's a problem. It's a real problem. So he's having the deputy out looking for the other body. He's trolling for the body. He finds this power cable that runs from like I'm assuming the mainland to the island. And they're like, "Oh, don't the old fisherman guy that's with him is like, "Oh, don't mess with that. That's the power line. That's a cable. We can't you don't want to fuck up. You don't want to lose power on the entire island." So he's like, "Yeah, we got to put that back." So then they're like, "All right." So now Brody's convinced. He's gotten fired. He goes back. He gets drunk. So Brody's just trying to figure out what to do. He's like, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just a little too crazy. And to this point, when you realize, man, this is like almost a good movie. It's kind of funny. It's like, I see where they were going with it. Jaws was a huge success, but it just doesn't really kindle the same levels as the first one. And they're doing the exact same thing again, pretty much. The town doesn't believe him. Shark attacks start happening, that kind of thing. So what ends up happening is the kids all escape. Like, Brody basically grounds his son. He's like, "Look, you can't go out." He doesn't explain why, though. I would at least explain why I don't want you going out. There's a crazy killer shark out there. Tell your friends. Tell them not to go out. Crazy killer shark. I know it's the only thing to do. Please stay on the beach. I don't want you to get eaten by a shark. And I would probably be like, okay, I can respect that because I was attacked by a shark when I was a kid in the previous movie. That'd be fair. But no, he doesn't say that. He just sneaks out at like the crack of dawn, brings his little brother. His brother refuses not to come. He's basically like, "I'll tell everybody, and then you won't be able to go." And he's like, fine, you can come. And all of his teen friends go out, and they're running all over that. They're having a good time. They're sailing. They don't know the shark's coming. Long story short, shark kills a bunch more people. Kills these two guys that fall behind the boat. This guy and this girl. Or it doesn't kill both of them, just kills the guy. Hits the boat, knocks the guy out, eats him. The woman's all traumatized. Brody finds out, like, these divers got attacked by the shark while they were looking for lobster. That the kids passed on their way out. Guy got up. One of the guys got killed. One of the guys got nitrogen narcosis from the shark attack. Or no one got killed. He got nitrogen narcosis. He got the bends because he came up too fast. And at that point, I'm like, how deep are they diving? And there was a bunch of them down there. There was like, a dozen people all diving. No one else saw the shark. I mean, as a 30-foot great white, we don't exactly have vast kelp fields off the coast of Massachusetts. How could you miss it? Like, because you're not diving all off by like miles away from people. There's like 12, 13 other people in the water. How to get in, how to get out? The answer? As we all know, since it is technically at this point a serial killer, it has the magical serial killer teleportation abilities. Yes. Something we won't really be discussing much because we don't usually cover serial killers, but it has magical teleportation abilities. I can believe that, as much as I can believe a shark could be coming after people because it takes it personally. So, shark's on a rampage, it's killing people. It's trying to get to the kids that are boating. Fucks up all the boats. Breaks all the boats, kills some more people on the boats that are all boating together. They tie all their boats together. Brody's son is hurt. Him and some of the kids still have a functioning sailboat. So they're like, we'll sail in, we'll go get help. You guys stay safe, stay out of the water, do what you can do. They lash all their boats together. They're actually pretty smart when it comes to that. And Brody at this point has found out Mike has gone out, his son, and has basically commandeered the police boat with the deputy. I forget his name. And his wife. Not the deputy's wife, Brody's wife. And they all go out, and they get to They get to the boat that has Mike on it, and they're like, look, get to the lighthouse, take your mother, take this guy, I'm going out after this thing. And he goes out, and they call in a helicopter to go find them. And the helicopter finds them, but the shark attacks the helicopter when it lands, not when it's in the air. This isn't Mega Shark after all. It lands in the water, throws him out of the line. It's going to tow him to Cable Junction, which is this little, like, island relay, I guess. I really don't know. So he's going to tow him there. It's apparently only a quarter or 3/4 of a mile away, which I would have to think that means they're almost on top of it. And you don't see it at any point. So, the shark attacks it, kills that guy. Attacks them again. It's just taking it personal at this point. It's just swimming around them, harassing them, giving them all sorts of emotional damage. It's kind of funny, all things considered. He's just sitting like, I'm gonna mess up those kids. This is Camp Crystal Lake, and I'm Jason Voorhees. That's what's going on right here. So they get almost to the Cable Junction, and the boat, one of the boats is upside down. It like capsized, but they lashed it. It was still floating anyway, so they lashed it to their boat. But unfortunately, that proves to be a problem because the mast gets stuck on some rocks because the mast is sticking straight down. Gets caught on some rocks as they get closer to shore. Now they can't get to the rocky outcropping. That's a problem. Thankfully, Brody's on his way, and he comes in. And he tries to throw him a rope, tow him out, but they're stuck. They're like, we're stuck on rocks. He's like, okay, well, we'll just tie this over here. You guys can all get on this boat, and we can go out. Goes to do that. Shark jumps out of the water, knocks the boat away, eats the rope, severs it, like it knows what it's doing. Pretty interesting there. Shark knows what he's doing. So the shark is demonstrating considerably higher processing abilities than most other sharks I've seen. Now, granted, sharks aren't by any means dumb, but they don't really have what we consider problem-solving intelligence because they don't need to. In nature, things develop abilities because they need to have them. For example, a shark knows how to hunt and it knows how to do what it does, but it never needed to figure out how to, like, say, get into a bottle like an octopus could. Now, an octopus can learn how to do that really quickly because they're kind of very object-oriented creatures, but a shark not so much. So this is kind of interesting how smart it is. Well, again, long story short, Brody crashes the boat. He gets in this little life raft, tries to help out the kids. They dredge up the power cord that was foreshadowed before. The shark's going for the kids. Brody bangs on the power cable. Shark's coming for him now. It's personal. Brody basically holds up the thing. It bites down on it, electrocutes, lights on fire, sinks back into the ocean, and the day is saved as the shark is defeated. Now, let's get into a quick thought about this, I guess. So, Jaws 2 is not as good as its predecessor. Jaws is just such a good movie, and it's a classy movie, and it's a lot of fun. And I recommend seeing that movie over this one, and that'll probably end up happening quite a bit in this particular section. I recommend a better movie that I didn't actually do a review on. But still, I'm just trying to steer as best I can for you guys. Tell you secret gems you might have heard of, or stuff you should avoid. That being said, I don't think this movie is so bad you need to avoid it. If you like the first movie a lot, you'll probably still enjoy, at least on some level, this movie. It is a rehashing of the first for the most part, but not quite as good. It deals a lot more with his kid and his kid's friends, and if you don't like that, you're probably not going to like this movie. But if you like that sort of bunch of teenagers kind of rebelling, doing their own thing, kind of hanging out, having like a summer... You know what? It's kind of like if you took like a beach movie and a Jaws movie and kind of just slamming them together. This is like half Beach Blanket Bingo, half Horror at Party Beach. Almost. I mean, better than both of those, I would think. Well, that's not true. The beach party movies are pretty funny. Like, you can enjoy those for their own reasons. So don't take that there. But so ultimately, I'd say this is okay in terms of the animal attack genre. It's fine. It's still a lot better than some of them. I mean, I'd recommend this certainly over Empire of the Ants any day. But I'd recommend just about any of the Jaws movies except for maybe the last one. But yeah, I'd put this at a medium priority. It'd be one I'd watch, but it doesn't have a lot of rewatch value. Isn't as good as the original. I mean, very few films can live up to Jaws in terms of goodness. So, I mean, really, they didn't have much to go on. And, yeah, it's all around. It's an okay film. I'd say check it out. Got nothing better to do. Alright, folks. Good night.